Good evening and welcome to Town Meeting Television's continuing coverage of Town Meeting 2023. That's March 7th is voting day, although many of you have probably received your ballots in the mail already. And if you haven't yet made your decision on the South Burlington School Board race, we have two of the candidates here who I think will inform your vote. We have Brian Campion and we have Trivia Childs.
Yes.
And you are an incumbent. You're already sitting on the school board.
Yes, I am.
Would this be your second term?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And I'm also going to remind folks that you can give us a call at 802-862-396 if you have any questions for the candidates. We'd love to hear them. So we're going to start with opening statements.
Got it.
Brian Campion, why don't you tell
Companion. Just the way it sounds.
Companion.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Good French name.
Yeah, it's C-O-M-P-A-N-I-O-N.
Right.
See, we all get a little nervous.
Not a problem. I've been called much worse.
Brian, Companion. Give us your opening statement. Why are you running and what qualifies you to be on the school board?
Sure. Good evening. Over 40 years ago, my wife Vivian and I moved to South Burlington. At the time, we had no children, but we knew we wanted to be part of a growing community with good schools. Looking back 43 years, things really haven't changed. Both of our daughters graduated from South Burlington High School, and currently we have 3 grandchildren at Orchard School. As a family, we feel very indebted to the community and the schools for the role they played in the development of our daughters and the continuing role they play with our grandchildren. My work career was primarily at PC Construction. For 30 years, I was the risk manager. I learned a great deal there. Teamwork, I learned that nobody builds a construction project on their own. Problem solving, and of course construction. But I think the key takeaway from PC was that an organization is defined by the quality of its people, and the success of that organization will be based on those people. In 2020, I served on a budget review committee. After 2 budget defeats, I found the work interesting, challenging, and I began thinking about running for school board. So 3 years later, here I am. Sometimes it takes me a while to get doing things. But recently, I've gone to, visited 3 schools. I have gone to school board meetings and talked to past members, so I think I have a view of the job and the issues. I believe my life experience, my business skills would be beneficial to the school board as we address various educational issues in the district.
Thank you so much, Brian. Trivia, tell us a little bit about why you're running for re-election and what qualifies you.
My name is Dr. Chayos, and I am currently the chairperson of the board. And as like other political places, the first term, you're just trying to get in the groove of it. And then the second term is when you really do something. And I find out that more parents are reaching out, contacting me about minority kids, about the things that they're doing. And I know my job has just begun. And I'm qualified because I'm a disabled vet, I'm a mom of 4 and a nana of 4, and I own the youth center at the mall. So I'm always there or in school. I'm an activity plan director out there. I run the club. So I try to get out there and try to listen to the students and try to give them an idea that someone is here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you tell us your position on the school budget for this year, for FY24?
I approve it, yes.
Do you want to say a little bit more
Yes.
about it and why you think the voters should support it?
Because the budget focuses on supporting students' social, emotional, and academic safely and facilities in Burlington. We are going out to the bonds too for ZIMS to address overcrowding at Orchard and Rick Marcotte Elementary School and the facilities needs in the school. 91% of the ZIMS will be paid back by impact fees. Impact fees are charged by the city for sewer, fire, etc. This will be an education fee. And the main thing, if we can't do anything with the kids if we don't have money. We're struggling. We had to take away a few classes and teachers. But it should never be a reason why someone would vote no unless it's unethical.
And I understand that there's a lot of crowding in the South Burlington School District.
Yes.
And so it sounds like this bond is meant to address that issue?
For the ZIMS, yes.
Okay. And what are the ZEMs?
They're similar to, not trailers, I don't want to say that. Modulars,
Okay.
yes, but they look much better.
Brian, tell us your position on the school budget, please.
Certainly. These are difficult times with high inflation and economic uncertainty. I think the key to budgeting is finding that balance, and Dr. Childs referred to it, of what is necessary to deliver a quality education and what the community will support. I do support the budget. It has about a $4.2 million spending increase this year, which is about 7%, but the school tax rate is only going up to about 4%. I think all districts in Vermont are very fortunate right now that the state yield, which is the contribution the state makes to districts, went up 16%. Well, what does 16% mean? To South Burlington, it means we're getting close to $4.9 million of new money. So you might say that yield increase is kind of taxpayer relief in these tough times, which I think is good. Another part of the budget I really like is the fact that we have 4 math interventionists that we're keeping on. They were previously funded by ESSER COVID relief funds, and that money, of course, is running out. But I was really pleased to see that the local budget is picking up 3 of those positions, because back in that budget period of 2020, when we had 2 defeats, one of the largest reductions in our budget was math and literacy support. I didn't agree, but we had to pass a budget. So I think when you look at our scores, and that kind of reduction in the pandemic, you can understand why some of our students are struggling in that area and our proficiency is down. So I support the budget. As far as staff cuts, I trust the administration and the board we have to make those decisions. They're not easy, but when you think about our budget being 78% salaries and benefits, when we have to get to numbers and we have to get to a level the community will support, it has to sometimes be in that area.
So Dr. Childs spoke to the bond issue.
Yes.
What's your position on that? $14.5 million?
Yes. I've said this before. I would have probably campaigned for 2 bonds, one for maintenance and one for the classroom project. I'm conservative in nature, and this is the biggest bond the community's had. I believe it's going to pass, but as being a conservative person, I'd rather get something than nothing. So we're all in.
Okay.
But clearly we do have overcrowding. I think we'll get to that on facilities.
Exactly. So let's talk about language access. We'll start with you, Brian. What important initiatives are underway in the school district, and what more needs to be done, in your view, to meet the needs of students and families who are proficient in languages other than English?
Sure. Great question. And I will tell you, I did not know much about this, but I did some looking at it. I was told by one of the principals I toured with that over 80 languages are spoken at homes in our district. And I thought, wow, I haven't heard this issue surface at a school board meeting or in our community, and I have a neighbor who does not speak English in their house. But what I found out is we have a very strong English language program. They're working on training for translating and interpretive services. They have English learning teachers. They're having family engagement nights to help other members of the family at the community library. They're doing assessments that are shared with educators as well as the administration, so we can target areas that are in need. And they're in the final stages, it sounds like, of developing a plan for English learning across the entire district. So it sounds like we addressed the issue. We're continuing to address the issue. And because it hasn't been raised as a real crisis or anything, I'd have to say job well done.
Thank you. Dr. Childs, what's your view of the efforts in the district to provide access for different language backgrounds?
Supporting diversity to our community is very important. At SBSD, we have made huge advances in the last 2 years to support those who are proficient in other languages. Superintendent Nicholas began the English Language Learner, ELL, nights where there was literature, culture, and food, and celebrated the difference between people. And so we do have a translation, and we try to provide, what I've learned, if you have to meet the student where they are. And if they're in a room and no one speaks their language, they're going to stop learning. So now that the district has become more diverse, it's very important that we take care of the kids that are coming in. We have implemented a software program that allows us to use data to understand student and family needs, as well as provide information on home languages spoken. We also hired an English language coordinator and expanded our ELL teaching staff. We know that those who speak languages other than English enrich learnings for all of our students. This is one of the main reasons that I helped to create a district's equality policy last year as a member of the board.
Thank you. Why don't we go to the question of capital improvements and bonding? You have spoken a little bit about that, Dr. Childs. What role does school infrastructure play in a healthy community? And in addition to addressing the overcrowding, what's next for the city of South Burlington School District?
We're partnering with our community to develop facilities is one of the greatest needs. We need to address over-enrollment now in our elementary schools with ZIMS. This recommendation was brought to us by a community committee called the Enrollment Committee. Elementary school students will move through our system. We need to work with the community to determine if our community wants to move fifth graders to the middle school, then start an infrastructure committee to determine middle and high school facilities. I am a supporter of community engagement, and I will work with city manager, superintendent, city council chair to ensure that development within SB is supported in the partnership in our district.
Thank you. Brian Companion, tell us about your view of these infrastructure improvements and capital improvements and what's needed.
You know, certainly people's work environment has an effect on how they look at going to work, how they approach their job, and in a school's case, how students learn. It can impact their performance. I visited 3 schools, and I think our staff, administration, and faculty in those schools are doing a great job managing a difficult situation, and it's time to fix it. We do have overcrowding. Clearly, we're using every square foot in those schools. And we have maintenance issues when you have small little children's swimming pools catching rainwater in hallways. So our immediate needs, Dr. Childs talked about them. We need classroom space at Rick Marcotte and at Central. We need maintenance on roofs and other issues that are included in the bond issue. If that passes, it buys us time to really have a good structured plan. The 5th grade decision is probably the biggest decision facing our buildings because that will determine where we're going to have to do the most work. But assuming that they go to the middle school, then the middle school has to be completely looked at. One area I would look at in the middle school is our gym. It's really not functional now, and if we bring 150 students there, it's only going to be worse. So I would look at repurposing something like that. Can we turn it into classrooms? And can we build a facility along with the other things we need? Our high school is vintage 1960s. So you know what those kind of buildings and the issues that need to be addressed there. And we're going to have to look at our future for the high school to accomplish our education goals. Growth in South Burlington is not going to slow down. You read where there's going to be another 1,000 homes in the next 10 years. That would be a 20% increase. According to the tax department, we have 5,200 households in South Burlington. So if you add 20%, what's that going to be for the impact on our schools? So I think the key is a long-range plan, the development of it, and communicating it in detail to the community, letting them know the level of support you're going to need. What is it going to cost? I think we're fortunate in South Burlington. We've got a good history of supporting our schools. And if we play the role of a good steward of public funds, maintain and build confidence, earn that confidence, I think we will get the funding we need to address our facility issues.
And I'd just like to give you both the opportunity to comment on how the school's crowding issue became so acute. I mean,
Would you like to go first, or would you like me to?
I can go first.
Sure.
Because we didn't expect it. We weren't prepared for anything, for people to move in. And not the scary part, but the sad part is now that we don't know what to do, actually. We're trying to figure out A, B, and C what's best for us, but we have an immediate need, and that's why we have the ZIMS. But people will continue moving to South Burlington because of the rating of our school, because that's why I moved here.
Is there any connection between the DRB that approves all these buildings, and then is there feedback to the school that these buildings are going to be built, there are going to be more children, there's more pressure on the school?
All I know, when I was in the school the other day, a guy who had graduated from there said, nothing has changed in 50 years.
So it's always been crowded?
No, the building.
Got it.
Right, yes. But I think we're just building.
Brian?
You look at South Burlington and the growth, and I think we have been surprised by some of the sources of students. For instance, the demographer the district uses, who projects enrollment numbers, looks like they missed it when we built these 1 and 2 bedroom apartments over in the Market Street area, our downtown, that's developing, and it's developing a lot of housing. I mean, the university is going to put 300 units there. But that housing at the other end of town has really overrun Rick Marcotte and Orchard. You know, the Chamberlain district can't grow. It's just the size of it can't grow, so there's no growth there. So we are in a bad situation. The bond issue would give us a stopgap and give us the classroom space we need to execute and do what is right for the children. But it's a tough thing, and the pandemic, I think, led to it. Vermont became a very good destination to come and work when people could work away from home. Mm-hmm. And we've seen a lot of that, a lot of families. And we came here 40 years ago for schools, and people are saying the same thing now. We're a very desirable community.
Well, Brian, you mentioned in your previous comments, you talked about teacher well-being and retention. So what is your understanding of the current level of morale among the South Burlington teachers? And is South Burlington's district doing enough to retain good teaching and support staff?
Let me start with retention. I don't think retention is an issue for teachers in South Burlington. I think we're viewed as a very desirable place to work. You get to engage with good students from good families. I think we have a good culture, we have a very good pay scale, and we have a community that is supported. So I don't think retention is an issue with teachers. Hiring staff is an issue for everybody in that business and education. I think it's a new thing for them. You know, in construction, we've been recruiting people forever. We're in the engineering schools when they're freshmen and sophomores. I don't think education had to do that, and I think recruiting is a struggle. To the mental health side of it, I'll tell a story that kind of puts it in perspective. My daughter lives next door to a person who was a high school science teacher in another district. This summer, he told me, he said, I need this summer, after the last 2 years, to get myself in the right frame of mind. For the first time in 14 years I've taught, I'm not sure I want to go back. So to me, that says there's a crisis. It's across the country, but it's in the schools. I don't really know what the schools have done. I would think we might want to survey and ask the teachers how they feel. What could we be doing for them? I know we have referral programs for students who have issues. On the other hand, do we have a program for teachers so they can reach out? It's a very difficult issue. I think well-being and job satisfaction will improve when people feel like they're getting their job accomplished. And right now, with the issue with students and the fact that we can't meet some staffing issues, classroom teachers are spending a lot more time on issues other than learning.
Yeah.
And I think that's an issue that bothers them. They want to see their kids advance.
Thank you. Dr. Childs, your view of teacher morale and retention?
Morale. I think during COVID, when these teachers were forced to go back because the parents wanted the kids to go in, a lot of them retired because they didn't want to be sick and bringing sickness home to their kids. But given all the challenges educators are facing today, what are significant and only made greater by the pandemic. We have an incredible and committed staff. I support changes to increase morale that matter, such as programming to support social and emotional learning. And as little is known, like bringing treats to the bus drivers and saying thank you all the time. Now we did that, me and a couple students. We took them treat 6:30 in the morning. Took them hot chocolate, gift bags, and food, just to help them to say we care. But I didn't go as a board director, I went as a community member. Mm-hmm. So I think that we're doing a great job compared to everything else. We are incredibly fortunate in our staff retention rates. The VT Superintendents Association completed a staff survey in the fall, and we were one of the best staffed districts in the state. Excellent pay and benefits, as well as culture of care and a tradition of excellence with a supportive community, are some of the reasons why. Not to mention our exceptional sports team. Our HR department, superintendent, and principals are also working to recruit and maintain staff. We are implementing new programs and training to assist support staff in addressing many of the social, emotional learning challenges we are seeing in students in pandemics. Like you said, we can't send them when the teachers are so busy working on other things instead of learning. We are grateful to have the best teaching and staff in the state.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to remind our viewers, if you have any questions for our candidates for the South Burlington City School Board two-year seat, 802-862-3966. Dr. Charles, why don't we start with you on this next question on racial justice. What is your current understanding of the work around this issue in our school district, and how would you support leadership efforts and initiatives to meet the challenges and create an equitable and thriving environment for all students?
First of all, this is an issue close to heart. Things are happening. And I've learned that the more we make ourselves available, and we're going to try to learn. So what's the current understanding of the work around the issue, and how long would support leadership efforts and initiatives to meet the challenges of creating an equitable environment for students? The understanding is that the community, we need to work as a team, because nobody understands what racial justice is. We're doing a lot of things, restorative practices. And as we continue to be diverse, increasing diverse, it's a lot of things that are going on that now we have to take care of. So my thing is, I think we're on the right path, because we hired someone, and then we have a lot of people like Mr. Jabbar who deals with this on occasion. And I think that racial injustice is going to take a long time, but we're working forward to doing it, making sure everybody is okay. Because my family went through it also.
And you're satisfied with the efforts that the district is now making, or what do you think is left? What do you think also has to happen?
We need more restorative justice. We need it to. If a student has an issue tomorrow, we need to talk about it tomorrow, not wait on 3 months to talk about it, because then it's too late. But yeah, restorative justice is great, and making sure the minority kids understand, we love them. We're going to protect them, because one point was when we had SROs and how the kids that looked like me felt they were afraid. And it comes back to the other day when I was in a room with the chief of police, and it made me feel different. But until people realize that, we can't go anywhere together.
Realize that
it's an issue, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people I know want to help, but they have to understand, they have to listen and accept it first.
Thank you, Dr. Charles. Brian Companion, your view of the work happening on racial justice in the schools, and how you would support leadership to create an equitable environment for all students.
I think the school is acting appropriately. Dr. Childs has been a catalyst for that, and I praise her for that. An equity policy was developed, but we all know that sometimes policies are developed and they just sit on a shelf. I like the fact that we're putting ours to work. We've hired an executive director who's been on staff for, I think, about 8 months. My take, whenever you hire somebody, and it doesn't matter in this position, but where I work, when you hire somebody, you let them do their job. We hired a qualified person, the best candidate that the board could find, great. Let them work with the administration in our schools to develop the means and methods to get the results that we want. And that's, I think, how a school board has to look at it. We're not running the schools on a day-to-day basis. It's our educational experts. And we've hired an expert in this field. As far as a board member, I need to learn more about this. I would do so by listening to the reports that the director develops, looking at issues that might come before the board, listening, asking questions, supporting, and monitoring the program to see that we're attaining our data points and our goals, because we do want to move forward. It's an important initiative. I agree on restorative justice. I believe, and I have for a long time, that punishment that is based, or discipline based on punishment only, is a negative to everybody. I could give you numerous examples how it's failed us in our business. So restorative justice, where we're trying to repair the harm that's been done. And time, I had no clue we were waiting 3 months. That's very sad. Accountability for that person that is responsible for this harm, taking accountability and working to repair. To me, that's creating a positive from what was a negative, because discipline for discipline's sake doesn't work.
Thank you. So we're moving into our closing comments. I think we have a few more minutes. So I'm going to just go right to the biggest challenges you see facing the school district.
Sure.
And then we'll go to short closing comments. So Brian, why don't you address this question? What do you see as the biggest challenges facing the district, and how would you use your seat on the board to make those changes?
Sure. Issue number one is staffing. Education is a labor-intensive business, and it is a business. It's the business of educating South Burlington students. And when we can't fill key positions, that means we're not delivering the service that we want to. So education staffing is a real balancing act. And we lost 23 positions this year. Okay? That decision was made by the management of the school. I agree with it. But we always have to look at staffing, because it's 78% of our budget. Of our $62 million we're going to spend, 49 is wages and benefits. So staffing is key. We need to attract good people. We need to make South Burlington the place people want to work. So I think we have to look at ourselves and say, what do we need to do to improve culture, our reputation, and be the place to work? After that, I'm looking at social and emotional issues. And I think we ask schools very often to address those. And they do a very good job in some areas. School lunch programs, breakfast programs combat hunger. We know that students can't learn if they're hungry. After-school programs aid the parents that work. Infrastructure is one that we've talked about equity, we've talked about mental health. I think those are the things. If I had to look at a vision for South Burlington, I'd say we want to make sure that every student has the means to maximize their potential, and every parent says, my child was taken care of well. We need to get the growth in the community under control and make progress on the social and emotional issues.
Thank you, Brian Companion. Dr. Childs, the biggest challenges and how you'll advance them if you're reelected.
Facilities, social, emotional, and academic learning, and school safety. I directed Superintendent Nichols to move forward with both ZIMS and impact fees. I believe that the community process that brought us to the ZIMS recommendation. As for learning, I support SEL positions and working on Act 1 to improve DEI efforts in the district. Regarding facilities, I am supportive of a community conversation on 5th grade transition and middle school. And I'm always in the school, and it's embarrassing sometimes when kids, because the word is South Burlington is the best city, in Vermont. And then they have to deal with all of this stuff, like things falling down, and it's real.
Yeah.
And when my son first started, we walked in there was no AC, so we had to bring water. But how many people know that? How many people came in there, sat down, and walked with the students? Nobody has, because I'm sure if they did, they would make a change. They would want this for our kids, because I know South B supports their people, our kids. The community was able to hear from principals regarding school safety at each school. My partnership with the superintendent allows us to work together on both teams to get initiatives accomplished, as you can see, by deliverable of the impact fees for ZIM, school safety and staffing, to name a few. My vision is that South Burlington minority kids are comfortable. They feel like they're a part of the environment, because as I travel in Texas, I felt at home. Nobody was looking at me, nothing was going on. But then when you get here, but I think a lot of times our kids are struggling because that's what someone said, not the truth. And so that's why I always try to make sure we get in contact with the city. We're trying to do things together. But yeah, our challenge, like Brian said, facilities.
Very good. I want to thank you both. We're out of time.
Okay.
I think your challenge question addressed your closing comments. I just want to remind people to vote on March 7th, if not before, with your ballots, if they've been sent to your home. We've been speaking with the candidates for the 2-year seat for the City of South Burlington School Board, Brian Companion and Dr. Trevia Childs. And I appreciate you both being with us tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned to Town Meeting Television's continuing coverage of Town Meeting 2023.